Did you know that BDSM and kink are healthy outlets for aggression, imagination, and attention? Hi, and welcome to The Partition, home of Kinky Wellness. My name is Dana Slosser, and I'm a sexual wellness coach that dives deep into all things kinky. I'm here to show how BDSM and kink deserves a rightful spot within the sexual wellness conversation. So, let's talk about it. Hi, and welcome back, and Happy New Year's. How are you doing?
Doing very good. How is 2023 treating you for the first week?
You know what? I'm excited for 2023. I'm excited to see where we go with it and what brings and all that jazz. So to start off the new year, we are kicking it off with protection and what we know about it. Yay!
Yay! I'm like, honestly, I think sexual health and like sexual protection is as much needed and like as much a part of being like sexually liberated. But
totally.
I think most people don't. I think a lot of people still are in this mindset of you're either sexually liberated and therefore having sex with loads of people, but then sexual health actually gets taken to the side. So yeah, did you want to kick us off? I've got some really fun stats though from the UK.
No, well, even to follow up with your point, we could begin with just like the differentiation of sexual wellness, even when we're hooking up with people, just like in our past. And I know that I have grown with my sexual wellness. Like when I was hooking up with people in my early 20s, like going to bars and like dating and things like that, I didn't ask for health stuff.
No,
at all. Like it wasn't even a thing that I would do. It wasn't until I started getting into the dom dads where it was like just a regular question, like here's yours, here's mine. You send the paperwork back and forth. It was not weird at all. Like it was not weird. It was only weird when if it was weird to the person I was talking to, then I knew right away that they weren't really into like they didn't know the basics. But I was like, okay. But I can tell you that was an evolvement. No, evolvement. That was I don't know, a growth for me. That was growth for me.
No, I get where you're coming from because it's like, so I remember I get STD checks as regularly as I can, including the fact that I haven't had sex in about 5 years. Like I still have no issue for it. But the amount of people I know that even the idea of like setting foot inside, like we call them the gum clinic over here.
Okay.
So like
gum clinic, that's what
that's called? I don't know why, but it's what I've always known it as. Like even in Plymouth in high school, like you just went to the gum clinic and that's where you got your free condoms, you got your femidoms, you do your sexual health. I was like, but for me, I found even now, like considering me and my group of friends were either turning 30 this year or in our 30s, so many people still don't even get STI checks because they're afraid that it will label them as a slut. Or like they're afraid even just going and getting it is going to mean something more than it actually does mean, if that makes sense. So
I have cold sores, right? So I tell my partners, like, I get cold sores on my face, like, hey, this is something that comes up, right? And even with cold sores, it's like you can get that from sharing a glass with somebody, and it's not like you could sleep with one person. And I know we've all heard that you can sleep with one person and then get it, but there's always that element. Oh, well, I don't sleep around a lot, so it just won't happen to me. Like it could never happen to me.
Yeah. Or that idea of, well, when I was with, they said they were clean. I don't sleep around a lot. And the person I was with said they were clean. And you're like, well, did you even look? Yeah, where is the proof? But also things like, because cold sore, obviously it's a part of it's herpes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of herpes. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with things like herpes, the problem with things like syphilis, which for some reason has made a massive comeback in the UK, STI wise, they don't necessarily like until you have a flare up, you can go years without knowing you have certain STIs. That's why it's really, really like you need to be doing them. So I always remember getting into an argument with my biological dad actually about it, because I was with two of my friends, gay men, by the way, I find have a really better version, like idea of sexual health, or the men I know in my life compared to any other sexuality in the world, just because they're so like they're so used to just 3 months. Every 3 months, I go and get the HIV.
Yeah.
Every 3, so you might as well just go and get everything done. And I remember my friends did it. They were in a relationship. They were going, like, there'd been an accident. So they were like, you know, to take any of the pressure off of both of us, let's just go get them at the same time. We'll get the results at the same time as well. Perfect. So I ended up tagging along with them because I don't have a life. And I got mine done and I got all my results back. And I knew that it was going to come back clean because I hadn't had sex in a while. Getting tested for throat chlamydia, by the way, really proved I have way too much of a gag reflex.
That's hilarious.
Like, the woman did it and I was like, it was very attractive. And I remember doing it, and then I remember talking to my dad later on in the evening, and he was like, oh, well, said like, oh yeah, I got my results back. Well, why would you go and get an STI test? It's going to be on your notes, your medical notes. And I was like, one, the good thing about a lot of these clinics in the UK is they're walk-in clinics. You can use a fake name. It's why so many teenagers go there for, like, you know, getting condoms or getting the implant or even just getting a prescription for the pill, because you do not have to give your real name for it. But
I did.
I was like,
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
I guess so. Like, I don't know. I put a fake health card number when I got my IUD out because I just didn't have it. I had my Alberta one, but I didn't have my Ontario one. I know I have it. I just lost it. I couldn't find it. So yeah, they don't really check. I guess
no,
that makes sense.
They're literally, all they need is a contact, a place to be able to contact you at. That's all they care about. How are we giving you your results? So I was like, well, it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, but if anybody found out, I want one, I'm clean, so it doesn't mean anything. But are you telling me that you've never, aside from when you were in the military and it was standard practice, are you telling me with all of your partners, you've never had an STI test in between your partners? And my dad was like, no, I would never do that. And I was like, but that's a really normal thing to do. I think it should be.
No, it should be. It's like, it's when you get infections down there, they can spread up into like your kidneys, like other organs of your body that can lead you to die. Like, this isn't, and I am taking the worst case scenario that could come out, but these are still cases that come up.
But it should, and I think this is something that needs to be talked about, because I don't know about you, but like, when I was in high school, obviously back in the day when we had the really awful sex education, we get told about STIs. You get told this is what chlamydia can look like, this is what genital herpes can look like, blah, blah, blah. But you don't actually get told, aside from, oh, you know, it can, you know, it can make you pee hard, or it can cause a smell and discharge. It doesn't actually tell you these worst case scenarios, which is what I think needs to happen. Like, I had one friend whose partner told her they were clean. She believed him. And this is years and years ago. And ended up getting herpes and chlamydia at the same time. I know, it was great. And because she didn't have any symptoms herself for the chlamydia, it wasn't until she got so poorly with it and she went to see the doctors, and the doctors were like, if you had left it a week, you would have lost your ability to have had children, because the chlamydia, like, it attacked so much inside of her womb. And like within the light, she was raging, obviously. But it's one of those, I'm like, I really think for people, I'm like, I do think if you are going to be if you want to be sexually liberal, if you want to be proud of your sexual history, whether you're having loads of sex or you're in a committed relationship and having sex once a week, I think being able to be proud enough to take care of your sexual health needs to actually be a part of sexual liberation and sexual wellness, not just having an orgasm or enjoying pleasure, but being able to go and get an STI check, or go and use condoms, or even go and get, like, what is it, like the implant, or go on the pill. doing things to take care of your sexual health needs to be as big a part of it. No, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But because I think that's the other thing. So many, I don't know about you, I've got it with my friends where we've talked and they're like, oh, yeah, but I don't want to get it because it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to make me feel like, it's a doctor's office. It's not meant to be fucking nice.
Yeah, you can't run away from the doctor feel when you have to go to a doctor to check that out. With my friends, like, I feel like here it's sexual wellness is more targeted towards just not having kids. What kind of protection can you have just not to have children? Not necessarily the illnesses that can come out of it. Because even doing the research, like what we'll talk about in a minute here, I looked into IUDs because that's what I had one. And so we have these things that are set in place to help you protect yourself against kids, but the IUDs themselves come with insane and horrific side effects, like insane. I consider myself lucky, but honestly, even getting an IUD, it's like 50-50 chance. Like my friend, she told me that when they prescribe the IUD or they say, do you want one? They tell you it's a 50-50 chance if you're going to be able to have kids or not after it's taken out. And even with this, I had Marina, whatever it is, Marina. Yeah. And it says, the doctor's telling me that it's like, oh, you can get pregnant right away. And that's great. But I was reading cases and it says even in the pamphlets up to 2 years. And still, even going further than that, it's still like 50-50. They just don't tell you that, like, because there's things in it. So even that, I looked at the brand that I had and they have been in the news, like every couple of years, they're in the news for women having the IUDs go up their fallopian tubes and rupturing the inside of their uteruses or breaking apart or like poking through, and you lose the ability to even have kids. And also I met someone when I was in yoga and she was an older lady, but she had an IUD and she got an infection on it. And it was so bad that she lost the ability to have kids naturally as well. And so just by talking to people that have previously had it and doing the smallest amount of research on it, there's quite a lot of dangers to it. And even to go in further from this, like I wasn't told this, but people who have IUDs should not be using menstrual cups because it can fuck up the placement and you can pull out your string. And I can promise you, I don't know anybody who's been told that information, but that's right there on Planned Parenthood's website. But I don't think that was something that was told to me. No one told me that I could go up my tubes and basically just rupture me from the inside out. And this is for 10% of cases. So this is 10%. And I still think that's a big number.
In
to
the
tell somebody
practice, 10% is huge. I've got a friend who I got her permission to actually talk about it as well. Well, she also had the IUD. We call it the coil in the UK.
Okay.
And they put it in, but they put it in wrong and managed to cut the inner lining of her womb.
Oh my God.
So because I know depending on which one, not every coil stops your period. Well, her one was to stop her period as well. She was like, I don't want any of it.
Yeah.
Had it and was still bleeding and was like, still heavy bleeding as well. So obviously panicked and was going, what the hell? And then went in, found out she'd been pregnant and unfortunately had a miscarriage as well because it had been working at the same time, and then had to have them remove it, wait for her to heal enough of the lining, like so it wasn't scarring, and then put it back in again. And on top of it, I think I was doing research for myself for vaginismus, and I found out one of the leading causes of vaginismus coming out of it, especially for young girls who haven't experienced sexual trauma, is the pain of having the IUD inserted.
Shut up.
So when I've gone to the doctors about how bad my periods are, not just my bleeding because I end up in a lot of pain, but also because I end up suicidal right before my period. So I had to go in and talk to them, and the only thing that I can't go on anything hormonal because there's no guarantee it's going to do anything. But one of the doctors keep trying to push the coil. And when I was talking to my sexual therapist, they were like, it's the only thing they could probably give you. However, there is no guarantee that they'll even be able to get it in, because apparently the pain of it is a leading cause of vaginismus. So you could do all of your stuff to help get over your vaginismus and be, able to do penetration, only to end up back at square one because of the pain of having it inserted into you.
Oh, you know what? I can contest to this. I agree with this. Sorry. When I was getting it in, I was on a Percocet and I feel like I was fine because of it. But yeah. I have friends that passed out. I know a girl that threw up. That's so sad. And you know what? It's just sinking in that if that's the leading cause before they even had sex and it's for something, I don't know. That's so sad. That's such a sad fact. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it really does, because obviously you've got the implant which goes under the arm. That's still quite a painful procedure.
I have not heard of that. I don't know too much about that.
So I don't know a lot about, but I know my sister had the implant and a few of my other friends back in high school had it. It's basically the pill, but it stays in, it gets inserted here. And it's still a medical procedure where they shove a massive needle into your arm. And you sat there and you're like, well, why is it the only ones that have been proven, like the IUD and the implant, to have less damaging effects emotionally because of the hormones, like the pill has so many side effects, are such painful procedures to have? It's almost, you kind of understand why people don't go on them in the end.
No, but again, it's crazy because it's not the women that are the ones that can get pregnant 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're looking at the wrong gender here to focus on. And especially because that sounds so gruesome. The arm thing, but even when I think about the IUD, I was fine getting it out all the way up until 10 seconds. I was fine there. I was calm, chill, whatever. And then I read the pamphlet before going in, and the last line, it said it can fall apart or break apart. You will need surgery if this happens. And I made the woman show me in the doctor's office. I was like, I want to see it. I need to see all the pieces are together. Thank you. But I don't know. I have those stats, but I also got some stats from Canada about protection in general in Canada. So these stats are from 2 years ago. Keep that in mind. So condom use was higher in Ontario, which is the province that I'm in, with 63% of everyone that they asked. And then the lowest was Quebec, which is 48 for protection, which is hilarious because I'm pretty sure Quebec has, I used to hear jokes that people in Quebec would just get pregnant all the time. They're just popping out kids and all this jazz. So to see the stats is funny. But then I clicked on a table that goes into more about the breakdown of it. Now, these stats are from a long time ago. It's from 2015 to 2016. Oh, wow. But even with them being what I'm about to go into a few years ago, I still find them interesting. So for out of 15 to 24-year-olds, out of everyone that was asked the question, 65% of males wore condoms, but only 54% of females use protection. So I was like, that's interesting. So during that age bracket, women are less than men, I guess.
That doesn't surprise me, because I think we've talked about it as well, where I was saying, from what I've seen in the UK, there's two schools of thought when it comes to sexual health and protection. And it is either condoms all the way, but no form of other female contraception, or female contraception, and they're all hitting it without condoms because they don't like the way condoms feel. And Fair it's enough. Not just men. When you hear that line, I don't like the way condoms feel, you expect it to be a male, it's specifically a male conversation. No, the amount of women I have spoken to in my life, including within my own family, who happily will sit there and say, I don't like condoms. And I'm like, but there are so many condom brands, you can't have tried them all.
I feel like I'm guilty on this one as well. Like, you know what? As I'm thinking about this, it's just, I know I've said that. I know I've said that line. Like, I know I have. And you know what? And I think that there is a thing because women will be like, no worries, I take the pill. Like before, like in high school, everybody took the pill. Oddly enough, I did not take the pill at all. Like I took it for a few months here and there, maybe when I was younger, but I just like couldn't do it on the same time every time, all the time. And then I was fucking myself over because I would take it maybe for a week and then stop. And then my period would come back and then I would be like, fuck, it's not 28 days. And I take it again and fuck it up. And I just said, you know what, screw the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a stereotype that women will make that men will put on women, but I actually think it's the women. You're right. The women are saying it more. And then we put blame that a man saying it. We're like, no, guys only say that. Guys only say that.
But like, so I'm asking you this because obviously I've never had sex with a man. I've never had sex with a penis. For someone who is like, I believe in sexual wellness. I will be honest. I love oral, but I have never used a femdom. I have just gone and got a test for chlamydia right after. Does it feel different when you have sex if your partner is wearing a condom? Do you know what I mean? Because
you know what? Good question. I want to meet right off the bat. I really want to say yes, but now I'm thinking about it and like, I still want to say yes, but I just think because I don't like, it's weird with condoms in the sense that you can feel the latex, like there's different brands, different styles. I know that, but you still feel that there's something in between. I don't like the smells of it a lot of the time. Like really, when I look back at my, sexual liberation, as I quote unquote, they want to call it, but really it wasn't. Like, I don't know what the fuck I was doing back then. No, like as much as it was popular and like in the thing and everyone's saying, do it, it's okay. Like you do you. No way. I was acting like a fool. That's ridiculous. Like, no way. Like, no way. I made better choices when I got into power dynamic situations over what I was doing before.
Which is understandable. But I've heard so many people say it and I'm sat there and I'm like, but you're wet. Like if you're wet and if they're using lube, can you feel it? And like, how much of an off-putting sensation is it? And I'm aware that now we have a lot more choice than we did, say, when we were teenagers. There's a lot more vegan options.
I think it's more about how it stays on. Honestly, like sometimes those things can slip off and like be a problem and a nuisance. And like, so the big thing is people will be like, oh, who cares? Don't ruin the mood, or like, don't you have the 5 minutes to put on a condom, like blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Being in that situation, like it makes all the difference. Like, you're like, no, I just like when you're in the heat of the moment, people don't like it. I feel like that's bad advice because they're not going to do it. Like it's ideal advice. Like you want people to stop and put it on and blah, blah, blah. But I just feel like they're not. Half the time in hookup culture, they're drunk. You know what I mean? Yeah. Half the time you're buzzed. Like I don't know. I just don't feel like people.
I think there's an embarrassment about it as well. Cause I've had it where, if you want to do completely safe sex, especially even as a queer woman, latex gloves are needed and femdoms are needed. And I'm like, the actual, like the femdoms do not look attractive. They are not, there's a lot of like, you've either got a sheet of latex and you've got to hold that in place.
Yeah.
So you miss out on the opportunity to like touch your partner. Or you've got the hands-free version, which I kid you not, is the creepiest looking thing I've ever seen. Imagine, like the masks we all wore before COVID, a condom version of that.
That's sexy.
With a little, I know, so sexy. With just a little bit of string around it. Like, I get why certain things, you're right, things get pushed to the side because of it, because there's almost that, like you said.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's good. It's not good, but I'm saying it's more realistic to think that it is the first thing that gets pushed to the side.
No, and I do agree with that one, which is why I am so big on people going and getting STI checks and regularly. I'm like, if you are not going to take, like, if you're not going to be 100% safe, which, let's be honest, nobody is. Things fail. Even if you are, I double up every single time, my partner uses a condom, I've got the IUD, or I'm on the pill, etc., etc., etc. Things happen. Condoms split. Sometimes if you're on the pill, you forget to take a dosage, or the IUD is moved. Like, things happen that are completely out of your control.
And also, like, the dormant stages of STIs, like, even if you go get a check, it won't show up on your card. So you're not you're not 100% even relying on that sometimes. So it is difficult. It's an uphill battle, but something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so it was, what the stats that I've got actually were they're from Bupa in the UK. So where is it? Where are my things? Ha ha ha. So after COVID, obviously, once we went through 2 years of lockdown and then we all got out of it, everybody went a bit sex mad. They found that there's been a rise in STIs. So STIs in the UK has risen by 19% in the UK alone since the end of COVID, with a lot of it being chlamydia, syphilis, HIV. So a lot of ones that you don't actually want to get, because you don't get to walk away from them at the end of the day. Like, if you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah.
And so when they did it, Bupa did a study on STI checks and people going to do it. So they found that of the people within the age group of 18 to 45, I want to say, over 60 odd, I think it was over 60 to 70% were excited to be going out and having sex again. And when they said about self-care, they said how many people have gone to get an STI check. And they found that over 59% of people who were excited to be going out and having sex again, and hookup sex, not necessarily just having sex with your partner, 59% of people have never had an STI check in any form at any time of their life.
Shit.
Yeah, with 39% of people admitting they would be embarrassed if their partner asked them to get one. And 36% of people would be embarrassed to talk to doctors about symptoms. So in my opinion, what that's showing is, even when you're having a flare up, people are too embarrassed to talk about sex that they are not taking care of themselves.
Oh my gosh. And you know what's so ridiculous about that is, like, the same people that are scared to go to the doctor about that, I swear they think they're sick and dying if they get a cough or a cold or something. It's the exact, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. You can physically feel it. Don't tell me you can't feel it when it shows up. Like, you know, like I know, like, the whole, like, even when I get a cortisol here, before it actually shows up. Like, I don't know. Denial is a big one.
I think denial. And I think from a female perspective, especially when you're in these situations where it's to do with discharge and it's to do with your vagina and your vulva, I think so many women and vulva owners have so much shame about owning a vulva in general, that they are embarrassed to go to a professional to talk about one. And in my opinion, that means that you are not liberated. So my mum always said to me, if you are embarrassed to talk about sex in a non-giggly way and a non-jokey way, maybe you shouldn't be having sex. But also, I wouldn't be embarrassed if my partner asked me to get an STI check, personally, as I would ask my partner for one. And like you said, as somebody who's done it within BDSM and done it within power play dynamics, it's in fact a red flag if your partner, one, doesn't ask at all and just implicitly trusts you off the bat, but also if they have an issue with going and getting one. It's not saying they have anything, but it almost feels like you expect them to come back with something.
Yeah, I just, like, the idea that you can't ask somebody when we're all pretending as if it's not gonna hurt you. Like,
Yeah.
as if it's not going to like if they do have something and it transmits to you, it will hurt you. Like, why are you doing that? But then it's so weird. Then I don't know, because with hookup culture, it's so fast. It's so fast and so many people in and out. No wonder, like, of course the stats are going to be high. I feel like that they're probably even higher than the stats that you named off, because if people are embarrassed to even go to the doctor, there's so many more that aren't actually going to talk about it.
And don't know about it. I think as well, I think a lot of people have got a very limited understanding of what an STI actually looks like in a person when it is active, like you said, that they might even ignore it, is where it looks like it's coming from, unless it's like genital herpes, where you're like, oh, you physically can see what it is.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I say this as somebody who had an ingrown hair on the outer lip of my labia, panicked and went to the doctor only to be told it was an ingrown hair.
That has to be the story for all women. Like, that must happen to every single woman. Like, any men are like like women.
Anyone who gets that bit done.
Yeah.
Hairs, they aren't pretty. They look awful, especially when it's like not got a head yet. So it looks like when you Google genital herpes, like a purple, especially if it's a big one. And you're like, I don't know what it is. I had my friend who waxes me come over and check, and he was like, it is a ingrown hair. So got it for me. And I'm still going to go to the doctor just in case. But it really made me laugh. But I'm very happy to admit it. I was like, yeah, I had a panic moment. I went to the doctors. I did what I needed to do. So many of my friends were going, I wouldn't have done that.
Really?
You were or trying to tell me I was overreacting. And I was sat there going, but isn't it better for me to have overreacted and then be told you've overreacted than put my head in the sand? And then when it gets worse and worse and worse and painful and disgusting, or I like put my head in the sand, ignore that it's happened, and then give something to a partner.
Well, I know a girl who got an infection from an ingrown hair. It got something on there. And that's why I think they're pretty serious, because it's still like there's a lot of bacteria, and you just have to make sure that if you have an open wound, even if it is an ingrown hair, you have to take care of it. Like, you have to do something about it. You can't just leave it.
Exactly. Because I said to the doctor about it with mine. She was like, can I ask why you still decided to come in even though you think your friend got the hair out? And I was like, because it's so close to the opening of the vagina that I'm keeping it clean, but obviously I'm wearing knickers, or I'm wearing jeans, so there's constant friction when I go to the toilet and stuff. She was like, nope, completely understand. It looks fine. It doesn't look infected. But it just made me think, like, I am the complete opposite. Like, I get anything wrong with me and I'm like, I could die. And my friend, I've convinced myself on like certain times, what if I've got an STI? And my friends are like, from where? You need to get laid.
From where? Well, that's what it is. 2023 is the year that Kat's going out and getting laid, everybody. So that's why protection is a perfect one. But this was great. I can't wait for 2023 dating stories with Kat. That's gonna be fun.
Wait, we're gonna do we can do a live one, because remember, one of our resolutions is we're actually meeting each other.
Yes,
in either of our countries.
That's true. That's true. Well, it was great. I feel like I learned a lot from this conversation. It was great about protection. Let us know what you think, if we missed anything, or if you want to add to protection for sexual kinky wellness. But I will see you again next week, Kat, and thank you for being on the show. And as usual, stay kinky. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Well, that's it for us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and let us know what you think. You can find me at thepartition.life and Katrina @_satisfiedcat. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time. And as always, stay kinky.